On this podcast, there will be short interviews with 4 of the candidates seeking the position of York Region District School Board trustee for wards 1, 2, and 4 in the city of Richmond Hill in this upcoming by-election. 9 candidates registered. The other 5 candidates did not have contact information or did not respond to repeated requests. I believe that the position of school trustee is important, even if you do not have children in the school system. The education system changes our community. In the short term, it matters how young people are educated. In the long term, it determines the success of future generations. 25% of our municipal taxes go to the school boards. The York Region District School Board's budget is $1.6 billion. I am not hopeful that this by-election will have a good turnout. Election date is Monday, July 15th, and advance polls on July 13th and 14th. There is no online voting, so if you're off on holidays. Historically, by-elections have a low voter turnout. School board trustee by-elections even lower. There is a good chance that the person who is elected may have received very few votes and not many more than the one of the other candidates. The next municipal election is in October of 2026. The 4 candidates interviewed, presented alphabetically, are Susan Joseph, Robert Kolosowski, Sarah Mian, and Sadra Nasseri. I asked the same questions of the candidates. They were sent these questions ahead of time. The questions are: tell us why you will be a good school trustee. What do you bring to the table? What are some of the strengths of the York Region District School Board? What do you see as some of the challenges facing York Region District School Board at the present time? Do you believe that the police should have a presence in the schools? What do you believe the policies for cell phone use at schools should be? How important is it to be teaching about the climate crisis? The interviews were done individually on Zoom, and they were requested to be less than 5 minutes. A link to the information regarding voting and candidates are in the podcast notes. Please look. If you are eligible, please vote, and please encourage others you know who are eligible to vote. Let's take a listen. I am now talking with Susan Joseph. Susan, welcome.
Hi, Marj. How are you?
I am doing very well. Really glad that we have been able to find a time to have this short chat. So, Susan, I'm going to start by asking you the questions. And the first is, tell us why you will be a good school trustee. What do you bring to the table?
So what I bring to the table is that I have 2 children in YRDSB. One is in grade 11 and one is in grade 8. I'm also a teacher at the post-secondary level, and I am currently a student at Brock University in education. So I'm sort of looking to bring all of those things together in sort of public engagement with the schools that my children and other children in York Region attend. I have always wanted to become involved with advocacy, and I think this is the perfect sort of way for me to do that, because I do have a balanced view, and I think I've been around young people and teachers and parents for so long that I have a good sense of sort of how to be cooperative with those 3 groups.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, what do you see as some of the strengths of YRDSB?
I think YRDSB has done a lot of really great things, actually, over the past 4 or 5 years. There's been really good initiatives surrounding diversity and inclusion, which it's really important in this day and age to make sure that our schools are safe spaces for everyone. I think they've done a great job with sustainability, building sustainability awareness, and getting in some of those programs that really support students learning about sustainability and how to make our schools a little bit more carbon friendly or carbon neutral. I also think that the school has done, YRDSB has done a great job engaging with the community. I think that there's a lot of really great things happening at the school board, and I'm interested in supporting that and seeing, how I can take my sort of experience and my knowledge and support that more than anything.
Very good. What do you see as some challenges facing YRDSB?
There's definitely some challenges, more so tied to, I would say, structures that are above YRDSB, like the provincial and federal governments, and a number of new students with special needs that aren't getting the right support, growing class sizes, lack of funding, schools' aging infrastructure, infrastructure that needs to be upgraded for student and teacher health and safety. I think there's issues with violence in the community and increasing access to weapons in the community. And I do think like we're in a changing world and we're in a bit of a volatile world these days. And it's really important for schools to be at the core of the community, sort of, the change in the community, be the change that should be there. So that's some things I think are facing the YRDSB right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
And I'm hoping I can support that in whatever way I can.
Okay. Do you believe that the police, the YRP, should have a presence in the schools?
I do think that they should have a presence in the schools. I think the presence should be in a mentorship role initially and should probably take sort of different guises in different ages of sort of the difference between secondary and elementary. When I was in school, when I was a child, there was a police presence. They would frequently come and we would speak with the constable. And I think that's really important to engaging and integrating students with the idea that law enforcement is supportive and is there when you need help, and not building a kind of culture of fear around policing and police. I do think it's also important to have a police officer, that is sort of responsible for schools, that is on call to schools, because even at my son's high school, there's been a number of incidents over the past year. And I just think it's really important for our schools to be safe. And that, we want to make sure that we do have someone there who's qualified to deal with certain situations.
Okay. What do you believe the policies for cell phone use should be at school?
Again, I think that is age dependent. I think it should change depending on age of the student. And I don't think young children need to have a cell phone in class. I think maybe, it should be stored. It should be, if their parent insists that they need it for some reason, it can be accessible, it's stored in the office, but they not have access to it. I do think cell phone use has been a bit insidious at all levels of education. As much as I support, like student safety and student security, I think cell phones are also used as a tool for bullying, sort of tool that kind of goes against inclusion in a lot of ways. So I think that there does need to be a policy in place. I think some schools, I'm not sure if there is, I know there's currently a lot of talk around a policy, and I think there has been one put in place through the government, through the provincial government. I think the provincial government policy is a little heavy-handed. I would support listening to what teachers and the teachers' unions would say about that, because they're on the ground. They're the ones that are in front of these classrooms, and I would be interested to hear what their take on it is.
Okay, thank you. Last question. How important is it to be teaching about the climate crisis?
I think it's vitally important. We're we're obviously all, like experiencing the effects of climate change right now. And there's, issues with schools becoming very hot, airflow in schools. It is something that I'm personally very sort of invested in, is building awareness within my community with my own students around sustainability. I'm also a trained chef, a pastry chef, so I always do have a lot of concern about resource use and making sure schools themselves are a sort of almost like a self-sufficient ecosystem in some ways, and putting the structures in place that allow schools to access community supports that they might need to become more sustainable.
Okay. Okay, very good answer. Well, thank you, Susan, for taking the time to do this interview. I wish you good luck in the campaign, and please stay engaged. So, hi, Robert.
Hi, Marj.
Robert, I'm really glad we found the time to do this interview podcast, and I'm going to get started by asking you the questions that I'm asking of all the candidates. First, Robert, tell us why you will be a good school trustee. What do you bring to the table?
Well, first of all, thank you for putting this interview together and for the questions. So, as you know, my name is Robert Kolosowski. I've been a lifelong resident of Richmond Hill and a long-time volunteer in our school board. And my career has revolved around managing organizations and employee education. But I fundamentally believe that this election is not about me or any of the other candidates. Rather, I believe it's a question of what policies the school board can adopt to improve the lives of students, parents, and educators. So I'm proud to be the only candidate who has actually put forward a detailed set of policies that I'm campaigning on, and I can give you a few examples. So first of all, as your trustee, I'm looking forward to improving the academic performance of our schools by hiring teachers based on merit, not just seniority, and also by keeping divisive politics out of schools. I also think we need to keep our schools safe from drugs and gun violence, and part of that involves reversing the school board's recent decision to ban the educational presentations and community outreach that the police used to do. And I also think we need to ensure our tax dollars are well respected by implementing some common sense financial accountability policies, and then reinvesting some of those savings into things like special needs supports, lowering class sizes, and finally building the Oak Ridges High School. So I think we need to bring common sense back to our school board and implement some of these policies.
Okay, so if you didn't catch all that, will have in the podcast notes a link to your website so you can review that. Okay, what do you see as the strengths of the York Region District School Board?
So the YRDSB is definitely one of the best performing school boards in Ontario based on some of the commonly cited metrics such as EQAO scores and school safety. But we need to keep it that way. And the quality of our schools is one of the biggest reasons why families actually move to Richmond Hill. And I mean, however, the direction of the school board has unfortunately been moving in the wrong direction, which has motivated me to step up, take action, and try to get things back on track.
Okay, so what do you see as some of the challenges the school board is facing now?
So I would say that in recent years, our school board's academic performance has declined, while school violence and taxes have increased dramatically. At the same time, the school board has become very focused on slogans, politics, and other distractions. But I think we just need to bring back common sense and restore the focus on the school board's two most important roles, which are improving education and school safety. So I know we have a time limit of 5 minutes in this interview, but more details about my full platform can be found on my website at robertfortrustee.ca.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. You've mentioned safety, and that's one of the questions I want to have an answer to is how do you feel about the York Regional Police having a presence back in the schools?
So I strongly condemn the school board's recent decision to ban educational programs involving school resource officers and youth education officers. I believe that political ideologies, including the so-called abolish the police ideology, have no place in our schools. children should not be taught to fear the police. Instead, they should be taught about topics such as drug safety, online safety, and traffic safety. And this has become even more important as the number of violent crimes, hate crimes, and opioid overdoses have doubled in the last few years. So when the safety of our children is at risk, there should never be any hesitation to call the police. I've talked to thousands of parents, students, and educators about this topic, and I've not met a single person who agrees with the board's decision. I think the board will hopefully be reversing that decision in the near future. And in fact, this specific policy is the issue that I hear about the most from residents at the doors while door knocking. And as your trustee, I will immediately put forward a motion to reverse the police ban.
Okay, thank you. What do you believe should be the policy for cell phone use at the school?
Yeah, no, that's a great question as well. So, from my understanding, psychiatrists have long known that recreational cell phone use in the classroom is highly correlated with damage to mental health, declining academic performance, and other issues. So, social media use at too young of an age teaches the brain to quickly forget information that is read or seen, which prevents the brain from being able to focus on more long-term tasks such as learning or thinking about more in-depth topics. So I think the provincial government is correct to be asking school boards to ban recreational social media cell phone use in the classrooms. However, this won't actually get done unless the school board executes it. So as your trustee, I will fully support the implementation of this proposed plan.
Okay. How important is it to be teaching about climate change, climate crisis?
Yeah, so I mean, as the president of the Richmond Hill Anglers Association, I've actually tracked the threat of some of these environmental challenges that we've been facing here in our community in Richmond Hill firsthand. And in particular, one of the issues I personally been focused on is the invasive species that have entered our waterways in places like Lake Wilcox, for example. And I think our education system has an important role to play in teaching students evidence-based information about the science of the climate and climate change, including the role of greenhouse gases. And more broadly, I think it's important that our education system teaches students about a wide range of real life skills, such as environmental protection, which you mentioned, as well as other skills such as personal finance, mental health, and critical thinking. I strongly believe that the direction of our education system determines the future of our country. So we have to make sure our students are well-rounded and prepared for the challenges of the future.
Okay. Thank you for that answer. So, Robert, that's the questions for this interview. Thank you for taking the time to do this. This interview is with Sarah Mian. Welcome, Sarah. I have some questions to ask you, so I'll start and looking forward to hearing your answers. First, Sarah, tell us why you would be a good school trustee and what do you bring to the table?
Thanks, Marj. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with you today. I'm running for the school board trustee to enhance the education experience and well-being of all the students in the York District School Board. I actually have two boys. One is in grade 2 and grade 8, the other one going into grade 8, that are both students at the York District School Board. And we've been in the public education system since the beginning. Balancing my career and the two boys, I have been involved in the community, so coaching soccer, women's sports advocate, promoting equity inclusion at work and outside of work. I feel that I would like to be the voice of our future generation, especially our kids, guardians, students, educators. I see them as, partners as we try to make a better environment for our children. I see myself as an advocate for effective use of our taxpayer funds. I want to make sure that there's support for students. We have an inclusive learning environment. I am committed that I want to make sure there's strategic planning, accountability, continuous improvement, something I also do at work. So I think I can bring that into the board. And then I want to make sure there's policy and discipline around school safety. There's, anti-racism policies. We're teaching our kids to be safe and supportive. And as we are in such a diverse environment, especially in Richmond Hill, I want to make sure that it's equitable and an effective learning environment for everyone.
Okay, very good. Thank you. What are some of the strengths of York Region District School Board?
So personally, as a parent, I've seen a number of strengths. We do have great educators. We do have great administrative staff. We do have a great focus and balance between arts and sciences and so on and so forth. Some of the good things are our students are able to go to different schools within the York region. So my son will be going to high school next year, and there's choices there. So that's really great. We do have a great foundation, I would say, when it comes to our board. I've read the strategic plan, and it's great. It's just how you implement it. I think that's the important piece that we need to look into.
Okay. So what do you see as some of the challenges facing the York Region District School Board at the present moment?
So I've seen a few challenges, starting with the school that my own children go to. We want to make sure that everyone has a voice, they feel inclusive. I know that some parents are louder than others, so one being right here in front of you. Want to make sure that everyone's heard, and we want to make sure that everyone feels that they're included. Some of the other challenges are we have to understand we're in a very different environment as my generation was in a completely different one. So some of the challenges would be, and I've spoken to a few people and they've talked about is, for example, hallway violence between the kids. We understand that technology plays a huge role these days with kids. So, bringing cell phones and how to keep that balance. We want to make sure some of the challenges are for the educators as well. I understand there's funding issues, class sizes are getting bigger. We have all these portables outside. We want to make sure, it's effective and kids are getting the opportunities. Class sizes are so big now. My son, when he started kindergarten, he had 27 kids in his class and there was one teacher and one support staff. So, things like that we really need to look into. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but as I work as a trustee, I want to make sure I listen. And then whatever, obviously, the constituents wants, that's what we would focus on.
Okay. Do you believe that the police should have a presence in the school?
So that's a very interesting question you ask, because I actually went to high school in Scarborough, and one of the schools that my parents enrolled me into had police presence. Actually, they used to have metal detectors when you would walk in. And it put me personally, at that time as a student, in a very uncomfortable state. So it would be something we'll have to, I personally believe it's something that needs to be spoken to with the lawmakers and obviously the police to understand what the needs of different schools are. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It depends on the needs of that area or school. Obviously, you do not want to bring a huge police presence and make something, that's something big and put people in uncomfortable situations. My parents personally pulled me out of that school because they were not comfortable with it. And they felt that there was other ways and policies that could be implemented where, to make sure there was, no violence and kids were safe and so on and so forth. So again, some of these topics, I don't know exactly, like right now, exactly what the right answer is. I'll have to sit down with parents and understand what they want, sit down with the board, and it's a conversation, right? It's not a right or a wrong answer. And depending on the needs of every area and district, you make those decisions, of course.
Okay. You've sort of touched on this, but what do you believe the policies for cell phone use in the schools should be?
That's a great question, actually. So my son just started in grade 7 and he got a phone. And the reason we got him a phone was it's for safety reasons. He walks home by himself. We want to make sure we know where he is. He's in band practice, so he's, at school after hours. I do strongly feel, and we've had conversations, is when they are on school premises where there is an access to a phone, like they have one in their class, he does not need his phone. So it should be locked away, put in somewhere very safe, and it should not be in use. Because I understand, I was a child once as well. I had a phone in high school, the temptation of picking it up and just playing games and so on and so forth. But it's sometimes very hard to implement those policies. If they bring it in, then what happens? Does the teacher take it? Then the teacher is now responsible for a device that may be costing thousands thousands of dollars. Where do they put it if it gets lost or damaged? So I think we need to sit down and have a conversation on how those policies can be implemented. Also, parents have to be on board. That's the biggest thing. Just because there's a rule and a law, teachers cannot implement it until the parents are on board. So I think it's really important to educate the parents, also have a conversation and explain to them, what what bringing a cell phone at school means. And then also obviously making sure that there's set policies set so that, people's properties are not being damaged and so on and so forth.
Okay, good. Last question. How important is it to be teaching about climate crisis?
It's a very great topic, and I think we should definitely make sure that our children are aware. We are seeing it firsthand around the world. There's tornadoes, there's, so many issues that are coming up. We have sea levels rising, so on and so forth. I think we need to teach our kids a number of topics. So financial literacy, we should be teaching them skills, and so on and so forth. And I think it's really important that they understand that the world they're living in is changing, and they need to be able to either advocate for these things so they know what their future looks like. I personally am a huge advocate when it comes to environmental change. I truly feel that we are using resources that, for example, when plastic ban came in, it was an inconvenience for all of us, but now see, we've all got used to it. So it's really important our children learn about everything. We live in a world where everything is now a click away, so you can just Google everything. So I want to make sure that we provide the education so they know they're getting it from the right resource, because you can go down a hole when it comes to Googling something and, you start with a cough and you end up knowing you're dying in 24 hours. So you just want to make sure there's that balance. And it's always good to have these not structured, but being educated and having resources, and there's actual, proof and there's science behind it, right? So that's really important to me.
Okay, well, thank you for all of those responses, and good luck with this campaign. I'll be paying attention to what happens on July 15th. Sadra, tell us why you will be a good school trustee. What do you bring to the table?
First of all, Marj, thank you so much for having me. I will be a good school trustee because I am dedicated to improving our schools and ensuring every student has the resources they need to succeed. I have a strong background in coaching and training athletes in community service, which equips me to address the challenges our schools face effectively. I bring a passion for education, a commitment to transparency, and a collaborative approach. My experience in community outreach and educational advocacy will help build strong partnerships between parents, teachers, and the school board to enhance our students' learning experiences. As a soccer coach and library board member, I bring a unique combination of leadership, communication, and analytical skills to the table. My experience working with diverse teams and managing budgets will enable me to effectively collaborate with staff, parents, and students to make informed decisions that will benefit the school community.
Okay, very good. Well, sounds impressive, Sadra. So thank you. Okay, let's talk about the YRDSB. What are some of its strengths?
I believe one of the strengths of the York Region District School Board, it is its commitment to equity and diversity. The board's focus on creating inclusive environments and promoting student well-being is very commendable. Additionally, YRDSB's efforts to provide access to innovative programs and technologies, such as online learning platforms, demonstrate its dedication to staying ahead of the curve in education.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, so what do you see as some of the challenges facing YRDSB right now?
I think one of the significant challenges facing YRDSB is addressing the growing mental health issues among students. As a coach, I have seen the impact firsthand of stress and anxiety on young students and young athletes, and I believe the board needs to prioritize providing adequate resources and support services for students' mental health and well-being.
Okay. Do you believe that the police should have a presence in the schools?
While I understand concerns around safety in schools, I believe that having police officers on campus can be beneficial in certain situations. However, it is essential to ensure that any police presence is implemented in a way that prioritizes student well-being, cultural sensitivity, and community trust. I would advocate for a nuanced approach that involves ongoing dialogue with students, parents, and staff to ensure a safe and respectful environment for everyone.
Okay, thank you. What do you believe the policies for cell phone use at schools should be?
I believe that cell phone use should be carefully managed in schools. While technology can be a valuable tool for learning, excessive screen time can have negative effects on student focus and on mental health. I would advocate for policies that promote responsible phone use, such as designating specific times for phone use during the day, providing educational programs on digital citizenship, and encouraging outdoor activities and other screen-free activities within the school day.
Okay, very good. And last question, how important is it to be teaching about climate change?
Teaching about the climate crisis is crucial for our students' future. It is essential that our education system prepares them to be environmentally conscious citizens who can mitigate the effects of climate change. I would prioritize incorporating climate education into our curriculum, including topics such as sustainability, conservation, and renewable energy.
Okay. Well, thank you for those responses, Sadra. I do wish you all the best in this campaign.
Thank you so much, Marj.
Thanks for listening. Please vote if you are eligible.